Nobody believed she could do it. Not the analysts sitting behind their laptops, not the bookmakers who had already written the final score in their heads, and certainly not the thousands of fans packed into Manolo Santana Stadium that Tuesday afternoon in Madrid. And honestly, you couldn't blame them. Because on paper, this match had one ending. But sport doesn't care about paper. And what happened on that Madrid clay over the next 2 hours and 27 minutes is something I genuinely cannot stop thinking about. So stay with me, because this story goes so much deeper than a scoreline. Alex Eala walked onto that court as a wild card. 20 years old. From Manila. Carrying a serve that the tennis world had practically dismissed as a structural flaw she might never fix. And standing across the net was Belinda Bencic, a woman who had literally given birth, dropped to 421st in the world, and then quietly, relentlessly clawed her way back to number 11. That is not just a tough draw. That is the universe asking you a very direct question about who you actually are. And the first set? The first set looked like the universe already had its answer. But here is the thing about tennis, and honestly about life in general. The moment you think you know how a story ends is usually the exact moment it decides to surprise you completely. So let me break down what actually happened, because the scoreline will not tell you any of this. Belinda Bencic's comeback is one of the most remarkable things this sport has produced in years. She stepped away after giving birth to her daughter Bella in April 2024. 6 months later, she came back ranked 421st in the world. Think about what that means. She had to rebuild everything: her fitness, her timing, her confidence, her ranking, match by match, tournament by tournament, on the biggest stages in the world with every result on full public display. By the time Madrid arrived, she was sitting at number 11. A 14-5 record for the season. Fresh off a United Cup victory for Switzerland and a deep run at Indian Wells. She did not just return to tennis. She returned sharper, calmer, and honestly more dangerous than she had ever been before. Her footwork was immaculate. Her ability to absorb pace and redirect it was almost surgical. And at altitude in Madrid, where the thinner air makes the ball travel faster and topspin loses its natural bite, her game was practically designed for those exact conditions. Stay inside the baseline, pick the ball up early, control the rally without ever needing to overpower anyone. She was the favorite. She had earned every single bit of that status. Alex, on the other hand, arrived carrying a clay record in 2026 that read 1 win and 2 losses. She had been taken apart by Aryna Sabalenka in Stuttgart, 6-1, 6-4, just weeks earlier. She had lost to Ostapenko the week before that. Her serve, the one weakness that had followed her since she turned professional, was still misfiring in ways that kept coaching teams awake at night. 7 aces across the entire early season. First serve percentage dipping below 60% in multiple matches. Double faults appearing at rates that no analyst could comfortably explain away. On paper, this match had one direction. And the first set did nothing to challenge that. Alex handed the first set over almost willingly. 3 double faults in the opening 4 games. A break surrendered on a serve that barely cleared the net cord. Bencic moved through it 6-3 without ever truly shifting out of second gear. She just waited. She watched. She let Alex unravel. Patient, controlled, completely in charge. And if you had turned this match off at that point, you would have felt like you had seen exactly what everyone expected. But here is where something quietly crucial started happening, something that almost nobody in that stadium had recognized yet. When you win a set because your opponent is essentially beating themselves, there is a trap waiting for you. A subtle one, but a real one. You stop playing your own match. You start reading the game through the lens of their mistakes rather than through the engine of your own game. Bencic's court positioning in that first set was slightly deeper than her usual preference. She was absorbing, waiting, perfectly content to let Alex self-destruct. And it worked brilliantly, for exactly 35 minutes. But it also meant she never established the inside-the-baseline aggression that had defined her best tennis all season. She was winning on Alex's terms. Which meant she was one tactical adjustment away from losing control entirely. That adjustment came at the start of the second set. And this is the part where you need to pay very close attention, because this is the tactical heart of everything that followed. Yes, Alex's serve is a genuine problem. At 175 centimeters, she does not have the natural leverage that taller players use to manufacture pace almost effortlessly. Her ball toss drifts. Her second serve sits up like an open invitation. These are real, documented limitations, and there is no point pretending otherwise. But here is what every single conversation about her serve completely misses. The other side of that weakness is a return game that most players on this tour would sacrifice almost anything to possess. She reads serve direction before the ball has even left the racket. Her left-handed forehand generates angles off the return that right-handed players simply cannot replicate from the same court position. She takes the ball on the rise with a compact, loaded swing that neutralizes incoming pace and immediately puts the server under pressure before the rally has even truly begun. She has trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy since she was 13 years old. Return drills are the foundation of everything built inside those walls. Nadal himself constructed one of the greatest careers this sport has ever seen on one single philosophy, that the server's supposed weapon could be transformed into their deepest source of anxiety. Alex has not just learned that philosophy. She has lived inside it every single day for years. In the second set, she started attacking Bencic's second serve with a ferocity and precision that had been completely absent in the opener. 2 full steps inside the baseline. Returns driven deep and heavy into Bencic's backhand corner, ball after ball, game after game. And this created a compounding problem that grew more serious with every single exchange. Bencic's backhand is her more reliable wing, but not her more attacking one. When she gets pushed deep and wide to that side, her instinct is to play safe, go back cross-court, neutralize rather than strike. Against most players on this tour, that is more than enough. But against a left-hander already positioned inside the court and hunting the next ball aggressively, it creates a geometry that slowly, patiently, methodically drags the server further and further out of position until something finally gives. The break came in the 5th game. Bencic served. Alex returned deep to the backhand. Bencic pushed a cautious cross-court reply and Alex stepped around her backhand and cracked a forehand inside-out that landed flush on the baseline. You could see it happen in real time. Bencic's demeanor visibly changed. She started bouncing the ball more times before serving. Her eyes drifted toward her coaching box. She began reaching for bigger first serves, trying to simply overpower the problem rather than solve it. And that state of mind, that pressing, that searching for answers through sheer force, is precisely what Alex's entire game is engineered to provoke. When a server starts pressing, the margins tighten. And then the double faults come. Bencic hit 2 in the 7th game alone. The second set went to Alex, 6-4. Just like that, this match had an entirely different heartbeat. The third set was something else altogether. Not elegant, not clean, but genuinely gripping in the way that only high-stakes tennis between 2 players who both desperately need the win can ever be. Both of them knew exactly what was on the line. For Bencic, dropping this match to an unseeded wildcard on clay would put a real crack in a comeback season that had been building serious momentum since January. For Alex, beating a top 15 player on the surface that had exposed her most brutally and most publicly would completely rewrite every assumption people carried about the ceiling of her game. Those stakes did not produce cautious tennis. They produced the exact opposite. 4 breaks of serve in the first 6 games alone. Alex broke, Bencic broke back immediately, Alex broke again, Bencic broke back again. It felt almost lawless, driven entirely by the fact that neither player had a reliable enough serve to provide any real shelter from the pressure. Alex's first serve percentage in the third set dropped to 51%. Bencic sat at 54%. Both of them were leaking points and the match came down purely to who could manage the damage more effectively under mounting pressure. And in that environment, small edges start carrying enormous weight. Alex has played on these Madrid courts before. She knows how this particular clay moves slightly faster than Rome or Roland Garros, with a skid that punishes anyone who sets up even half a step late. She knows the afternoon wind that swirls unpredictably through the open roof of the Caja Magica. She knows the long shadows that creep across the baseline as evening approaches and change the visual depth of the ball in ways that most players do not even register until it has already cost them a point. Madrid has never been comfortable for her. But it is a familiar kind of uncomfortable. And in a match where both players were struggling to hold serve, that environmental familiarity was worth something no stat sheet will ever find a column for. The decisive moment came in the 9th game. Bencic serving at 4-5, fighting to hold and push the pressure back onto Alex to serve out the match. It was a long, grinding, tense game full of lead changes. Bencic fought off one break point with the fastest serve of the entire match at 172 km/h. And for a moment it genuinely looked like she might find a way through. Then she double faulted. Another break point. This time Alex chipped a low return that skidded hard off the clay and stayed stubbornly below Bencic's ideal contact zone. The Swiss player reached down and tried to scoop a forehand from well below her knees. The ball clipped the tape and fell back onto her side of the net. Match point Alex. The stadium held its breath in the way that only happens when everyone present understands that something genuinely historic might be seconds away from being completed right in front of them. Alex bounced the ball 4 times. She looked up. She tossed it. And the serve that had tormented her all season, that had been the subject of every critical conversation about whether her game was truly ready for this level, went in. Clean, deep, unreturnable. Bencic's return went long. And Alex Eala dropped to both knees in the Madrid clay, pressed both palms into that red dirt, and let the tears come freely while an entire stadium rose to its feet around her. What you just watched was not a wild card getting lucky against a tired champion. What you watched was a player who had been written off, who carried a visible flaw into a match where everyone expected her to fail, systematically dismantle one of the best comeback stories in the sport by understanding something that most people in that stadium did not, that her greatest weakness and her greatest weapon had always been 2 sides of exactly the same thing. And that is the part of this story that the scoreline will never show you.